Welcome to Elon Beyond the Bricks, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of Elon University to explore the stories, ideas, and innovations shaping our community. Each episode will talk to individuals who are making a difference in the world and explore the values and experiences that make Elon so special. We hope you'll find stories that inspire and challenge you, and perhaps even spark new ideas of your own. Join us as we dive into conversations that go beyond the classroom and into the lives of our remarkable students, alumni, parents, faculty, and staff. Thanks for joining.
Hello and welcome to Elon Beyond the Bricks. I'm your host, President Connie Book, and today we're talking with alumna Barrett Wilbert Weed. Welcome, Barrett. I'm glad to have you here.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I want to, before we jump into questions, you have such an impressive bio. I want to make sure our audience can hear more about you. So Barrett Wilbert Weed is a versatile performer, an advocate, and a supporter of the arts. Her artistic journey began at the age of 5 with the Boston Children's Opera. A native of Cambridge, Massachusetts, Barrett honed her craft at Elon, gaining the skills and confidence to launch her career. After graduating in 2011, she made her Broadway debut in Lysistrata Jones. She is best known for her originating the role of Veronica Sawyer in Heathers, the musical, and then playing Janice in Mean Girls, the musical. And I had a chance to see both of those shows, and she was fabulous.
Thank you.
And in fall of 2024, Barrett debuted her solo show, Dear Diary, at Sony Hall in New York. She's also performed in a variety of television and web series. Barrett received the Lucille Lortel Award, Drama Desk nominations, and the Helen Hayes Award for her work, along with Elon's Top 10 Under 10 Alumni Award in 2019. Barrett's journey is as versatile as it is inspiring. And in this episode, she's going to share her insights on creativity, resilience, and carving out a path that's uniquely her own. So I'm so pleased that you're here with us, and I'm looking forward to this conversation about all things Broadway and all things that you've accomplished during your career. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, it's so wild to hear all those things like rattled off in like one sentence.
It's been really inspiring to watch, and I've had the pleasure of, when I was a faculty member, seeing you perform at Elon, and then coming back as president to see how much your career had advanced, and two, watching you take your own sense of purpose into your work. So I've been looking forward to having this conversation. But I want to start with age 5, being in the opera, and I'm curious if you remember that moment, and at age 5, what you remember about that moment.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds very impressive, but really what the Boston Children's Opera was, I keep meaning to, check in on them and see if they're still going, but really what it is like a very fancy sounding like after school program for kids, and then they took it very seriously, and my mom can probably remember it better than I can, but I can't really imagine what it's like to watch a bunch of kids who like barely know how to read perform operas for 3 hours. Like they were 3 hours long.
And they're pretty dramatic, right? Like they're some heavy themes in those operas.
It was like Grimm's fairy tale. Most of the time it was Grimm's fairy tales set to existing opera scores. Like they would just change out the lyrics, but it was like, yeah, come watch a 9-year-old sing like a song from La Traviata, but like with different lyrics, which is like,
it's fun. It actually sounds fun. As a mom, it sounds fun.
Yeah.
I want to just talk about your Elon experience briefly for folks. And I don't know how many people are aware of Elon's, the competitiveness of Elon's music theater program here. And I often tell people that it's harder to get into Elon's musical theater program than it is to be an NFL or an NBA player.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we typically have over 1,200 people audition for about 15 seats in Elon's program. And so we are,
Wow.
it's a really spectacular opportunity for talented people who are able to secure one of those scholarships and one of those opportunities. And so I want to ask you, at Elon, we talk a lot at the university about challenge and support. And that when students arrive, right, no matter their major discipline, our job is to offer challenge, but also support through that challenge. And I know personally, when I look back on my college experience in my early career, there were moments where I received guidance or feedback that really changed how I approached my discipline and my work and my personal life. So I'm curious, when you reflect back on your Elon experience, what are some of those formative experiences that come to mind that happened here on campus?
I think the primary one for me was just getting into the school to begin with, because when I'm now at the age where when I was coming into the program was at a serious turning point. I think it went from being, oh, this is a great, program, but they don't have a lot of, or what's the way to say it? It went from being this is a great program, but they don't have a lot of representation in the industry, to very, very quickly, while I was on campus, we were having people graduate, and it was, by the time I was a senior, there were 3 classes behind me where people were on Broadway or on television, and people were had an awareness of the program just enough by the time I got to New York, where
and the alumni is so important in trailblazing that for us, right?
Right.
Like go out and they help this next class behind them and
Yes.
the next class. So
Yeah.
it's
But getting into when I was applying to, because I'm not really like a type. Like I don't think I have a type. And I've never really had a type. I think I might age into having a type, which is exciting. But mostly it's just, I tend to play roles where I can understand the character, and I'm not playing roles where I don't understand the character, and I don't really know how to classify that or qualify that. But, so when I was auditioning for musical theater programs, I applied to 13 schools, and I got waitlisted at Juilliard, and I got into Elon, and that was it. And that was very confusing, especially like as a young person, because I went to an amazing high school with a ton of support and a ton of presence in like the theater collegiate atmosphere. And so my teachers were, I'm still really good friends with he just retired, but with Joe Cabral, he's kind of like an uncle to me now, who ran the theater program at Walnut Hill for a very long time, over 30 years. And he remembers that very clearly. He was devastated. We were all devastated of like, because I was working really hard and taking it really seriously. And, that's just, I didn't get in anywhere that I was planning to go, and didn't really know what to do, and they didn't really know what to do. And so I was like, well, I think I'm going to go to this school. It's a newer program. I think I'm going to go here and give it a shot. And it ended up being like easily the best decision that could have happened.
what was the role you had at Elon that shaped some of your experience?
I had so many good opportunities, but I think the first like big one was Louisa in 9, which was, it's such an amazing show. It's so good. But also that's the first and still I think the only time I've ever gotten to play an Italian person, which is, my grandmother was from Italy, so like that was nice to experience.
Make a connection, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And also like, learn a new accent. But also my freshman year I got to do like a new composer project with Chris Miller. And he is still one of my best friends, an amazing composer. He also went to Elon. He wrote Tuck Everlasting. He just finished working on Swept Away. He did the orchestrations and arrangements for that show, and you can absolutely tell
that it's him. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it's so exciting to see the growth in people, right? And how where their careers take them.
Yeah.
I remember watching you in Heathers and Mean Girls and the audience really connecting with you. So tell me about those roles and, fine to pick one of them, but tell me about, your relationship with those characters.
Well, I think, I'm learning. I'm definitely still, I think I'll be learning how to act for the rest of my life, because it just really never ends. It's because you're just learning about people and how people function and how to embody different people who have lived lives that you never lived. So the more life experience you get, the easier that becomes. But I think one of the things that I've learned in the last 10 years is that some roles require you to kind of be like an expositionist, like just, take layers off and let people really look at you and kind of just be super vulnerable and just react. And that's, that was my experience working on Heathers, where I think I went into it trying to kind of like, because it was the first time I'd like professionally led a show. And so I had an idea of like, oh, I need to be kind of like something that I was like, I need to be somebody I'm not. I need to be like, my idea of a sexy person or like a mysterious person or like, I don't know. I was a year out of school. I was so young when I worked on that show.
I have a phrase that I say, window dressing, that we often, like when we start careers, we only know what we've seen. Right. It's not till you get behind the window that you start to realize, because the window dressing influences how we approach it, but not ultimately how we, make it our own. Right.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think my counterpart in that show, Ryan McCartan, he is a very he still is, he's still a dear friend, and he's very he is very slick and very chill and very on the back foot, and kind of like, especially when he was younger, just like a smidgen, apathetic and like cold, which was amazing for that character. But also like, you can't have two of those people on stage. And I just kind of realized, I don't remember when it happened during rehearsal, but I was like, oh, this character really benefits from me just creating as many embarrassing, humiliating moments for myself to fall into as possible, and then just reacting to that. Like, it benefits from me just, kind of fumbling around in the dark looking for a light switch the whole time, because that character is so she's so desperate to survive. Just the quality is desperate, and she's making every wrong choice you can possibly make as a person until you get to the end, and then she snaps out of it and has to be an active character. And that could not be further from what Janice is. Janice is the antagonist of Mean Girls. When you really look at the dramaturgical setup of that show, Regina is the villain, and from Regina's point of view, she's really just defending herself against all these people. She was living her life just fine until until Katie showed up, and then Janice took the opportunity to ruin her life, which is, that's
Yep.
And also, Janice is not on board with anything Katie's trying to do. Katie's trying to make friends and make out with a cute boy, and she doesn't care about any of that. She's, she's like playing chess and stacking the deck and, you know, like running the board the whole time, like pretty much until I'd Rather Be Me, where she gets everything she wants and everything falls apart and Regina's life is completely destroyed and she's not friends with her best friend anymore. And then she's like, I have screwed up.
Yes.
There used to be a line toward the end of the show that they took out, but Gray Anson, for my birthday one year, he got me a nameplate necklace that says "garbage person" on it. Where they used to be sitting in a French class and talking and, you know, speaking and having French conversation partner, and his character was like, said something about like you realize that like you're a garbage person too, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, I do realize that Janice is like, I absolutely realize that I am a garbage person too.
Yeah, I do remember the audience really connecting with that character and just the powerful performance. So I'm going to shift gears because you decided to do something recently, and that's your first solo show, Dear Diary.
Yeah.
And it was very personal and intimate. So tell me about that decision and how that went this fall.
Oh man, you know, in February of 2024, obviously, some producers out of London who produce shows for the Palladium, they approached me to build a show load to do like a one-night engagement for them at the Palladium, which is a massive venue. It is, I believe it's 2,200 seats, and I kind of had like a strange feeling about it. I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, I don't really know. There's something about this that feels kind of like undercooked or something. And my feeling about that was right, as later on at the end of the summer, I had like built this entire show and then they pulled the plug on it because they just felt like they financially couldn't follow through on it, which apparently happens all the time in London. That doesn't happen in New York, or if it does, it does not get to the point where you're putting tickets on sale and then bailing on an obligation.
That was tough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. I've never ever I have failed a lot. I think that's just part of life, and it's definitely part of life as a professional artist, is just failing over and over and over and over and over again until something comes together.
Is it really failing, or is it learning? Learning over and over, learning, and then it comes together.
Kind of. I mean, I think like yes, learning, but also it's the marathon of a career of you're gonna keep tripping over things until you figure out how to see it coming and get over the hurdle before it can make you fall on your face. But I have definitely, quote, learned a lot privately, but not publicly.
You think about it, because I know rejection, people talk, right? Like failure, rejection, and reaching. And it's a constancy of reaching for the next, right? And two, the reality is probably if you had not had Palladium reach out, that the show Dear Diary would not exist, right?
I mean, it might exist, but not right now, and not, that it wasn't my intention to. So, but anyway, the whole thing fell apart. It's the first time I've ever, had a public failure like that, even though it's not really my failing, but I've never had my name attached. I've never had my name be the headline about something.
It was hard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, falling apart. But there are about 5 people in my life who I am indebted to for life, because, I mean, they would disagree with me, and they have disagreed with me, but they basically, a bunch of my friends who were helping me put the show together, instead of being like, oh boy, and like stepping back from it, just immediately rushed toward the situation, and we're like, how can we help you?
What a gift to have that community of support to get
I
that
know.
exactly what you needed, right?
I know.
The
Yeah.
rally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a gift.
Yes. And then I ended up throwing out about half the show and just writing it from a different perspective, because at that point I was like, I don't really have anything to lose. And so the show kind of just became about the last, I don't know, 10 years of my life. And I'm kind of an open person generally. I don't really like having secrets. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. And one of the things that I've been holding back from, not, people in my life, but also just like people in general who care about what I'm doing as a performer, is that during Mean Girls, during the second year of Mean Girls, I got diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety, and I still have to be evaluated for a couple of other things. But I generally had, during one of the high points in my career, I was really having serious mental health problems, to the point where I just kind of became physically incapacitated for not even a few months, I think more like 4 or 5 months, and it went on for the better part of a year until Lorne Michaels kind of sat me down and was like, you have a problem, which I'll forever be grateful to him for, because he's the only person I would have listened to, because I do have a tendency to be really stubborn, and I was definitely in denial about how bad it had gotten, because it was just, so the show's a lot about that, and a lot about what that feels like, and trying to articulate that journey of going from being severely mentally ill to being stable, or at least having an awareness of what you need to do to take care of yourself and be functional. And that was really the conversation that Lorne Michaels had with me, was, you're not the only person who has this going on, but this is especially for someone like him, he's worked with so
much talent,
so many incredible people, so many incredible brains, and if anybody would be able to identify that immediately, it's him. And so, just kind of, that was a lot of what the show is about. And also it's a spooky season show, so it's a lot of ghost stories, and there's a haunted mirror in my mom's house, and I'm convinced that there's a sleep paralysis demon that lives in there, and it's just a lot of also
spooky humor.
A lot of spooky humor. And Sahar, my Elon Bessie, who did the show with me, is she's a genetic witch, and so is her mom, and so we've had a lot of interesting experiences together, and so it's kind of just coupling those two things, and then putting songs with it. And
I do think that story just reminds me about crossroads in our lives, and how important people who take the time to give us honest feedback, right? And to, how important they create that crossroads, that tension point, and it allows us, right, to move in a different direction, or to confront some really hard challenges. So that was in the fall. Tell me what are you thinking for 2025?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. So another Elon grad, Eric Mann, who's wonderful. We love Eric. Eric's film production company, they filmed Dear Diary, so now Chris also works for Eric, so now Chris and I are editing that, and we're just gonna kind of see, what we got and see if any of it is something that we want to release publicly, or if it's terrible and we want to just bury it and make sure no one ever sees it again. And I also, audio recorded it, so I'm gonna look into releasing it as an album. So that's what's going on here. But no, I mean, I'm fully in I think I've picked the worst time maybe in film and television history to transition from theater to film and TV. I think I've inadvertently picked the worst time I possibly could, because it's such a bizarre.
It is really a dynamic time, isn't it? It really is. But it also, I always say that's where opportunity, I think people are more willing to really think about things differently.
Yes.
When things are, disrupted. So
Totally.
Who knows what's ahead?
Yeah, that's very true. And it's, it forces you to be creative in ways that you, roads you probably wouldn't have gone down before. So that's really what I think the next year is going to be about.
Well, I just thank you for taking the time today. What I love, too, about your story is thank you for being such a champion for your Elon classmates and just the impact that they're having in your life, your personal and professional life, post Elon, and the lifelong relationships. That's one of the many things we talk about here, is we know so many of those relationships start here on campus. And as the challenges of your academic and performance, in the case of music theater, are underway, right? And then once you are in the middle of those challenges together, it really does create lasting bonds that end up making our lives better the rest of our life, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be with us and to be a part of this effort with sharing so many of the stories of the Elon community as part of Beyond the Bricks. So I know everybody's going to enjoy your story, Barrett. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to talk to you.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Elon Beyond the Bricks. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and leave a review to help others discover the conversations that matter. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.